Namaste and greetings. I, Swati Solanki, researcher and assistant editor at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान, Nai Delhi, extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Talk. Today, we have gathered for a special discussion on New India's economic transformation and Union Budget 2022 to 23 as a part of the series, The State of Economy #Econ Dialogue. The series is organized by IMPRI, Center for the Study of Finance and Economics. The chair for our today's session is Professor Mukul Asher. So, is a former professor at Kuan U School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
It is my privilege to introduce the panelists for today's session. We have with us Dr. Amarender Reddy. So, is Principal Scientist in Agricultural Economics at ICAR-Central Research Institute for Dryland Agriculture, Hyderabad. Welcome, sir. Professor Nilanjan Banik. So, is Professor and Program Director at School of Management, Mahindra University, Hyderabad. Welcome you, sir. Dr. Radhika Pandey, ma'am, is Senior Fellow at National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, New Delhi. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
And V. Ramakrishnan, sir, is Managing Director at Organization Development, Singapore. Welcome, sir. My heartiest welcome to you all for today's pertinent talk. Now, I would like to invite our chair, Professor Mukul Asher, to initiate the discussion and invite our panelists taking this discussion forward. We really look forward to learning from our esteemed gathering. So, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Swati. May I begin by warmly congratulating IMPRI and particularly Dr. Arjun Kumar, for consistently coming up with high quality webinars, which are both timely and educational. The 5 minutes that is allotted to me in the beginning, since we have experts who are going to talk about the budget itself, I won't talk about the budget at this point, maybe at the end, after everybody else has spoken. What I would like to do is to set the importance and the context of the budget, which requires more exposure than perhaps has been the case so far. We know that unveiling of India's union budget is the single most substantive economic event of the year. We take stock of the immediate past economic and fiscal performance, review macro and fiscal trends, scenarios, and initiatives for future readiness of the country. It should be noted, however, that economic and social policy initiatives are undertaken throughout the year. So it's not the budget. So anybody analyzing the budget should have woven in the various initiatives throughout the year. It also involves the analysis of the union budget, also involves a whole set of complementary documents with the union budget, which are on the website. So what are some of those documents? Annual financial statement, finance bill, macroeconomic framework statement, medium-term fiscal policy, come fiscal strategy framework, output outcome framework for various government schemes, and implementation of budget announcements. So these documents go together when budget is analyzed. Another very important document, but unfortunately not read widely, is the economic survey. Economic survey of India is presented in the parliament the day before the budget. This year, the 442-page survey was presented on 31st January. The survey usually has a specific theme. For 2021-22 survey, it is what is called the agile approach to addressing COVID-19 pandemic challenges while reviving the economy. And the survey, as I said, deserves to be read a lot more widely, also among the academia, the researchers, and should play a role in parliamentary debates. What is the agile approach that this year's economic survey suggests? The agile approach that informed India's economic response is based on feedback loops. When you do something, you must build a feedback loop to improve real-time monitoring of actual outcomes, flexible responses, safety net buffers, and so on. Planning matters in this framework, but mostly for scenario analysis, identifying vulnerable section, understanding policy options, rather than as a deterministic prediction, which was usually done before. So the survey's GDP forecast is a range, 8 to 8.5% for 2022-23, not one number. And that's good. That's progress in economic reasoning. There is also, besides the main survey volume, a revamped statistical appendix, which is designed to facilitate the agile approach. This is a good new innovation. The appendix has 5 separate tables of high frequency indicators, HFIs, such as new subscribers to the Employees Provident Fund, volume of e-way bills, monthly GST revenue, domestic air traffic, and host of others. So you can only do an agile type approach. You are getting high frequency indicators. The survey emphasizes process reforms, comprising simplifications of the processes where government involvement is essential. And these reforms are designed to reduce transaction cost. This is different from deregulation, involving significant reduction or ending government's role in an activity. So I was glad to note that the emphasis on process reform is prominently evident in the budget speech, in the budget proposals, and in the finance bill. As I said, the greater use of range in projection is where we would want to increasingly go, because we are talking about a lot of uncertainty globally. There may be how the pandemic, there may be new pandemic, energy cost, changing geopolitical things. Everybody talks about it and comes up with one number as a projection, which is not quite consistent with the earlier one. My final point, chapter 11 of the survey is titled Tracking Developments Through Satellite Images and Cartography, something we have neglected in the past. This makes use of new technologies to obtain accurate and timely data for policy making. And this area, and I refer you to that chapter, this area could become another sector in providing economic opportunities, including for exports, for manufacturing and services as well. So I've tried to lay down the context in which it is useful to analyze the budget. Now we go to the experts and we start with Professor Pandey for her remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Radhika ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, sir. So at the very outset, I would like to thank IMPRI and Dr. Arjun for this seminar, for this insightful topic, and for consistently organizing very insightful seminars and webinars. So congratulations. I will just begin my talk by talking about some key takeaways from budget. So I'll just give a preview of some of the highlights of the budget and then briefly talk about each of them. Next slide, please. Yeah, so some of the key takeaways, I mean, one of the big points from the budget has been its big push to Capex to promote infrastructure and job creation and growth. And it's very important, as Professor Asher pointed out, to look at the context within which we are talking about these developments. And if we look at the context in particular for the big push to Capex, investment has remained anemic, and we have seen private investment remaining weak for quite some time now. From 2011-12, we have seen private investment remaining weak through various indicators. If we look at, say, CMI Capex data, which talks about projects under implementation, announced projects, they have remained, after peaking at 2011, we have seen not picking up to a substantial extent. Also, if we look at capacity utilization, especially after the pandemic, we have seen capacity utilization slumping to somewhere around 60 to 65%. So unless and until we see a sustained pickup in private investment, the government has taken upon itself to provide a push to Capex. And that's a very positive move, because Capex provides a multiplier impact on growth, employment creation and growth. But at the same time, while giving a push to Capex, they have tried to keep an eye on fiscal consolidation. So we'll talk about some of the medium-term fiscal consolidation numbers, which they have to maintain. It's not that just for this year, but looking at the 15th Finance Commission recommendation, we see that they are on track on reducing the fiscal deficit to 4.5% by FY26. The other important highlight has been the extension of relief to MSMEs. So we see that there has been a push to growth through Capex, and on the other side, to promote the sectors that have been adversely impacted by pandemic. They have tried to extend the relief, especially through the credit guarantee schemes and revamping the CGTME, the entity which provides guarantee. So they have tried to provide relief to MSMEs, and indeed some of these programs have worked for them, though there is a scope for further improvement in identifying the beneficiaries and to look at the impact of these on banks' balance sheets. But if we look at preliminary studies that have been done on the impact of ECLGS, we see that it has benefited MSMEs. Particularly, there's a study by State Bank of India which says that around 14% of outstanding MSME loans was prevented from becoming NPAs by this credit guarantee scheme. In addition, there have been some tax rationalization measures introduced to promote Make in India to promote domestic industry, and also some measures to promote private investment, primarily the extension of the subsidized corporate tax regime has been extended by 1 year for entities that the manufacturing sector entities that begin their business. They have been given this benefit of concessional tax regime of 15% by another year. Also, we see that though there were concerns that this budget could be used as an instrument to introduce populist measures, keeping an eye on the upcoming state election, but we do not see very many populist measures here. They are mostly long-term, medium-term measures to promote growth, to promote job creation, infrastructure. One of the things that we see is that the outlay on subsidies has been pruned in this year's budget on all three kinds of subsidies. Though, as Professor Asher pointed out, that there's always a scope for increasing these over the course of the year. But if we look at the budget estimates, and if we compare that with the revised estimates of the current financial year, we see that these subsidies have been pruned for both for food, fertilizer, as well as petroleum. Also, another point to note is what are their estimates for the next fiscal year, because budget can be analyzed in two ways. One is we compare budget estimates of this financial year with the RE, and then RE with the BE of the next financial year. And we see that though we have seen buoyant growth in revenues, but for the next fiscal, again, the projections have been kept on a conservative scale for both the tax side, expenditure side, as well as the nominal GDP. So we'll just talk about some of these in a brief context. Next slide, please. So just a very brief outline on the Capex push. So we saw that there was an increase in capital expenditure by almost 36% to 7.5 lakh crore, considering that in private investment still remains tepid. Even the RE of the current financial year saw an increase of Capex from 5.54 lakh crore to 6.3 lakh crore. Now, this is the budgetary outlay, but if we couple this with the grants in aid for creation of capital assets, which are given to states, the effective capital expenditure comes to 10.68 lakh crore. And the main medium through which they are trying to spend capital expenditure or outlay capital expenditure is through the Gati Shakti Master Plan, which is an integrated digital platform for 16 ministries to implement and monitor their infra projects. Now, one of the main impetus of this has been on the construction sector, though there are other things like the civil aviation, drone, but a main plank of this Capex has been on construction. And what we saw during the pandemic was that a lot of jobs were lost, particularly in the construction sector. So some of this Capex will definitely help in boosting the job growth in construction. We'll talk about some of these schemes in the next slide, but before that, in addition to the central government states have also been incentivized to boost their capital spending by providing them a rupees 1 lakh crore of interest-free loans, particularly for capital spending. So this will not be used for revenue, but for capital spending. Next slide. So there is a big push to construction, and we've seen in the economic survey there's a chapter on infrastructure which talks about how particularly this government has tried to increase not only the coverage of national highways but also the pace of construction per day. So that momentum they want to pursue in the current year also, and using that as a medium of job creation. So for this budget, the national highways are projected to be increased by 25,000 kilometers. And for this, the outlay for NHAI has been projected to increase by whopping 133% in 2022-23 as compared to the BE of 21-22. So not only on highways, but also on some of the other construction works like on ropeways, on rural roads program. There has been a massive increase in outlays. So Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana, which is a rural road construction scheme, has seen an increase in outlay from 14,000 crore to 19,000 crore. Plus, there has been a boost to housing. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana saw an outlay of 48,000 crore, and they want to target construction of 80 lakh houses in the coming financial year. Now, all these schemes have not only they themselves have the potential to promote job creation, but the fact that there are forward and backward linkages attached to them, because when there is greater push to highways and road construction and housing, it also leads to increase in demand for raw materials like steel, cement, and so on. So that also will lead to a push to job creation in the other sector. And there has been a study conducted by NIPFP on employment effectiveness of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And the study shows that there has been a significant impact on employment through input-output approach. They have tried to assess what is the impact of on employment, and there has been a significant increase in employment through the both the urban and the rural versions of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Next slide, please. On the MSMEs, we've already just spoken about. So there's the ECLGS has been extended to provide credit to 130 lakh MSMEs. It has already provided, and now they want to, the target is now 5 lakh crore from 4.5 lakh crore. And particularly this will be used for some of the sectors like hospitals, enterprises, which have been hard hit by the pandemic. In addition, there are some other measures also to help the businesses of MSMEs, particularly the custom duty exemption to secondary steel, MSME steel producers for steel scrap. In addition, they have also, the FM announced that there will be some improvements in the payment infrastructure because MSMEs are plagued by the delays in payments. So that is something that needs to be worked on. And also there are some portals that MSMEs report to, like the eShram portal and the other portal. So they will be integrated to provide timely assistance to MSMEs. It needs to be seen how they are implemented, but at the moment the initiatives look good. So they haven't tried to give cash handouts to MSMEs, but as usual, the approach of the Atmanirbhar Bharat package, where they have tried to create the situation so that these entities can carry on with their business through credit, through guaranteed credit, that remains in progress in this year's budget also. Next slide, please.
Professor Pandey, I'm sorry, 2 more minutes, please.
Sorry, sir?
2 more minutes, please.
Yeah, I am finishing. So just on the fiscal policy statement, fiscal deficit is projected to reduce from 6.9% in the current financial year to 6.4%. Revenue deficit is projected to decline more steeply from 4.7 to 3.8. And if we see from the pandemic year, there has been a substantial reduction in revenue deficit. So while capital expenditure has seen an increase, but they have tried to reduce the deficit by controlling the revenue deficit. The point of concern here is the central government debt, which was earlier projected to decline from 21-22 onward, but we have seen that there has been a marginal uptick in the central government debt to GDP ratio, and this needs to be seen what will be the trajectory of decline, because as we've all seen since the budget, the bond markets have been very nervous, and we have seen the yields on 10-year bonds rising. So the concern is that the government's borrowing program has been more than anticipated. Next slide. So this is just on the conservative estimates, what we've seen that tax revenues are projected to increase by 9.6%. Non-tax revenues, on the other hand, are expected to shrink. So the budget projects there would be a decline in the dividends from Reserve Bank and other dividends. Disinvestment receipts remains a cause of concern because they've started with 1.75 lakh crore, which has been pruned to 78,000 crore for this this year's RE and further to 65,000 crore. Expenditure on data has been pruned, but depending on the demand for work, as we saw in last year, we could see an increase in the expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Pandey, for a very succinct and insightful analysis of the proposals. So maybe go to the next speaker, please, as we had agreed the sequence.
Professor Reddy.
Yes. Can I start?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you for IMPRI for inviting me and conducting this very webinar on a very important topic. Actually, this is a transformation. So I will start with how the Indian economy transformed over last 75 years, and Minister told that it is the starting point for next 25 years. So how this last 25 years evolved our economic policy. Basically, when we got independence in 1947, we are all, very poor country. Poverty is more than 50%, and incomes are very poor. Private sector capability, state capabilities are very, very low. With that base scenario, the Jawaharlal Nehru and those periods, government gave a lot of emphasis on public push so that the trickle down effects, through trickle down effect, this poverty will be eliminated. That public push, big planning, the big Navaratna type of public sector companies, promotion of IITs, promotion of Indian Institute of Science. So everywhere the public push is there, whether it's science and technology, whether it's the the production sector, or whether it is in the service sector. All the sectors, government came in a big way, and that process continued even on 1970s and the 80s. Slowly, since the 80s, that government thought that trickle down effects are not visible, private sector is not coming in a big way. During that period, there is a change, a shift in the policy towards give more liberalization type of thing, shift from license rush to more liberalization, and direct transfers to the poverty alleviation programs like Prime Minister Awas Yojana programs, housing, water, agriculture, all these incentive type of direct subsidies came in. So this process continued, and given a big lot of vibrancy to the Indian economy. However, still we are seeing those the same problems, same age-old problems are still there. For example, even 2015-16 Prime Minister is a big slogan, doubling farmers' incomes. So doubling farmers' incomes during that 16-17 is only the farmers' incomes are about 8,000 rupees per month, average household income, and probably doubling means 16,000 including inflation to maybe 21,000 or something like that by now, because doubling 2016 to 2022. This is the end period. So, however, we are not able to reach that. Even it's not a very short-term phenomenon; it's a long-term phenomenon. So during this 1990s to 2010 and 20, that the divide between haves and have-nots increased a lot, and this, keeping this in view, Government of India this time what they have done in the policy, they even the chief economic advisor mentioned that barbell strategy. So you have to cushion these vulnerable sections, more poor sections, the farmers, laborers, with some sort of subsidies, government direct money transfers. These are all the schemes: housing, electricity, cooking gas subsidy, drinking water subsidy, all this, and FG Narega, food subsidy, and fertilizer subsidy. All this, direct money transfer wherever possible. So that is one set of safety nets. Building on the safety nets. And other one we are seeing in this budget is the big push for infrastructure, as Radhika mentioned. There is a lot of push for this public infrastructure, mainly the roads, railways, so many, the entire list is there. She also mentioned already, but this, roads, that 7 engines of growth, PM Gati Shakti, that energy, this roads, railways, airports, mass transport, waterways, ports, logistic infrastructure. So this creating this huge infrastructure that started with the Vajpayee government. But things, the problem here is we are creating so much of infrastructure. Whenever you see now, if you compare last 20 years back, if you travel some, from one state capital to another state capital, during those periods, the highway structure is very, very pathetic. Now you can see a lot of very, very state-of-the-art highways structure is there across breadth and width of the India. But thing is that still around these hardware that we are telling, this railways, roads, airport, all these are hardwares. We are able to do that, and we are able to pump in both public as well as the private infrastructure. But around this hardware infrastructure, somehow we are lagging in establishing some very good policies to rejuvenate economy around this hardware which we have created. So that is very, very important, so that whenever you see even now in the around highways, you see the land rates increased per acre. 1 crore per acre is, earlier it is 10,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh per acre. As soon as these highways came in, the land rates adjacent to these highways increased to 1 crore per acre or something like that, 100 times, 50 times or something like that. But we are not able to encash that in terms of establishing some rural industries, establishing some vibrant economic activities around these, but only the real estate sector is, this type of things are going. But there we need to have that to address those. Between these two, infrastructure one side and the safety nets, inclusive growth on that side, in this budget, Government of India came with a big push for digital infrastructure, big push everywhere. Maybe it's education, the digital university, or the 200 channels for each class, one channel, or any even MSMEs, lot of digital, synchronizing all these, different portals. There are 5-6 portals with different structures, like workers, MSME workers, one separate portal is there, MSME financial sector, one some separate MSE, unorganized sector, skill sector, different, some, the isolated or, standalone infrastructure is there. In this budget, they want to pull together all this and put into one platform as a digital infrastructure for unorganized sector or this MSME sector. That's a good step. So the type of digital infrastructure around this hardware which is already created, the type of infrastructure, software infrastructure, if government creates, that will rejuvenate the interlinkages between different sectors and energize the local micro, small and micro enterprises. So that is the big step. This, again, these startups, a lot of emphasis on startup, drone-based technology monitoring, for example. So one example I will tell, Prime Minister Fasal Bima Yojana. We are having Prime Minister Fasal Bima Yojana, crop insurance scheme. So because of this, even though government is allocating a lot of budget every year, some 15, 30 or 1,000 crores or something like that. But the last 5 years, what has happened in that the farmers' coverage is reducing. Number of farmers coverage is reduced, even though it's a good policy. But why this is happening? Because the software really which is required to assess the acreage under each crop, how much crop is lost during this weather calamity, that flood or drought, etc., and how they are assessing that problems are there still. How to remove these problems so that the allocated budget will be reaching the farmers who are intended farmers who really suffered from these calamities will be really benefiting without much time gaps. For example, in the recent survey, what the government mentioned, even the field surveys also mentioning, there's a lot of gap between claims and claims received by the farmers. About 50% of the farmers, they have not received the claims, even though there is a 6 months gap. So that type of situations can be covered with the new technology, like using these drones, new technologies, digital infrastructure, assessing the area under each crop, how much loss nowadays satellite technology is there to assess all these things. So that type of this software with this digital infrastructure the technology is there, but how you are using those technologies for the end user, so that the entire process of all these benefits, infrastructure benefits, inclusive programs, like for example food security, or you see the MG Narega in 2006, it is started. During that period, lot of corruption. About 80% of the money is going to here and there, not reaching to the intended beneficiaries. Now, with the improvement of systems, digitization and everything, about 90% of the money intended for the MG Narega workers really going to this MG Narega people. That way, we have to improve the systems through this budget gave a lot of emphasis on digital infrastructure, startups, skill development, R&D also, because we are giving this new economic pulse, we are giving larger share to the private sector. Wherever possible, private sector can handle everything, but government should stand up and regulate and provide a congenial atmosphere. And whenever
Professor Reddy, I'm sorry, 2 minutes, please.
So these three pillars. One, this infrastructure, big push is there, and that hard structure is already created and it is in the process of creating. We are lagging behind developed countries, even developing countries, China, when compared to China, we are lagging behind a lot. And also the inclusive goals, social safety net, that is barbell strategy. There, one is social safety net, giving very buffer to these people, and infrastructure development and also to push the private sector, crowding the private sector. So that way it is a very, very proactive budget, because as Radhika also mentioned, a lot of budget allocations for this, for example, food subsidy, fertilizer subsidy, direct money transfers, they have not increased. Although the budget is not increased in the infrastructure sector, even health sector also budget is not increased. So overall, this budget is pro private sector, pro infrastructure, little bit reduction in the social safety nets, but I think it is not gone to these popular schemes, especially keeping this long-term view, next 25 years. I think probably this is the very good budget, putting some very strong base for India's infrastructure and digital infrastructure, especially to at least for next 10 years. It is a very good direction this budget gave. Thank you very much.
Thank you for such a sweeping analysis since independence of the fiscal policies. May I now invite Professor Banik?
Please also unmute yourself. Banik sir, please unmute yourself also.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Asher. And first of all, thank you, Arjun and the IMPRI team for organizing this budget. And if I may request you to share the PowerPoint slides. So what I'm going to do is, after listening to two of my previous speakers, I'm going to start with few inputs, which is some of the good thing about the budget and some of the not so good thing about the budget. And therefore, from the policy side, what the government and the policymakers can do to make the budget more impactful, because budget is a one-day phenomenon, but over a period of next fiscal year, the government can intervene in some meaningful way. So next slide, Arjun. So as I said, that I'm going to touch upon with some good and not so good things. So one of the good things which have been appreciated and which has a direct implication on the growth and which has been talked about in length by both Professor Pandey and Reddy is there has been an increment in capital expenditure from 2.2% of GDP to 4.1% of GDP. The other thing which has happened, and something I've been writing quite a bit, is for long we were dealing with the inverted duty structure in India, which means if I were to produce my final output for export, because the landed input price of some of the importable items are higher, and that was happening because of high tariff rates, the Indian exporters were not getting competitive edge in the world market. So for the first time, I also personally see there has been some tax rationalization in terms of bringing the input tariff, which goes in the production of final output, in particular for the items which are linked with the production linked incentive schemes. For instance, if I'm talking about mobile handset, or for that matter, if I'm talking about textile industry. So for instance, the duty has been reduced for electronic circuit board, which goes in the production of final output, namely some of the electronic items that we use day-to-day activities. Even for this methanol and acetic acid, which are critical input for manufacturing textile items, those duty has come down. And also the other good thing about the budget is the revenue expenditure, because you have two types of expenditure. The capital expenditure is, as some of my previous speakers were mentioning, has to do with allocating towards infrastructure, housing, potable drinking waters. So that has increased, which is a good thing because it has got a huge multiplier effect. For instance, when if you look into the growth trajectory of Singapore, and Professor Asher is here, who is working or was working in Singapore for a long period of time, one will notice that during 60s, Singapore happened to be a aggregation of few villages, So what government decided at that point of time was to give some loan to the people in Singapore so that they can start building the houses. And some of the study shows that the multiplier effect, so if government is spending 100 rupees towards building house, the multiplier effect for building house is almost 2.5 times, which is actually creating around 250 rupees in the economy. And government also get tax out of that once the housing project gets completed, So in terms of an increment in capital expenditure, therefore, I say it's a good thing because government is allocating resources which has got multiplier effect, both in terms of creating more income as well as employing unskilled labor in a way that if I'm building some rural road, I might as well use the unemployed laborers, unskilled laborers, which also can compete with Narege kind of scheme, So these are the good things. Revenue expenditure is put on cap in the sense that some of the unproductive, what we say, investment, for instance, running the government department, or for that matter, giving salaries and wages. This is kept under control, which is a good thing. So these are the good thing about the budget. So the outcome of the capital expenditure, as has been talked about, is we are hoping that it is going to bring ease of doing business. Why? Because there will be more road, there will be more other capital increment, for instance, building ports and airports. This hopefully will lead to spur in manufacturing, because once you have better roads and infrastructure, your competitiveness increases. And as I mentioned, it will also lead to job creation, both on part of the manufacturing sector as also on part of the government. So these are the good thing, and that we are hoping that is going to bring. So if you can go to the next slide, which is, now if I look into the other side of the argument, which they are saying is, okay, the government has spent this much amount of money, but what is the guarantee that it will lead to increase in capital consumption expenditure? As you all know, that consumption expenditure is the most important component of GDP, explaining close to 60% of the GDP. So if I am, there is something called Keynesian marginal efficiency of capital, which is basically saying that as an investor or as a producer, what is more important to me is to find out whether their people are spending more money. Otherwise, what is the use for me to invest? And one of the most, I'd say, one thing which has been talked in in a good way is the middle income people. Because there is no change in tax, reduction in tax, they are not going to get benefit, and therefore the purchasing power of this middle income group, or for that matter, the low income group, is not going to increase. And if that happens, no matter how much the government is spending money towards creating a better infrastructure, manufacturing sector will not participate. Private manufacturing sector will not participate. And therefore, this multiplier effect of creating jobs and growth that we are talking about may not happen. So that is one of the critical comments which came in terms of what can be a spoil sport. The other thing is about the land acquisition. I come from the state of West Bengal, and I've personally seen that even now, when the government is planning to connect Calcutta with North Bengal or the city of Siliguri, much of the project work in terms of building road has been stalled, and that is because of government is not able to collect or acquire land, because one of the the state policy is they are not going to go after people and ask them to give land. So that is also a function of the state policy, which is outside the purview of the central government. The third thing, and this is, I think, what Professor Pandey briefly touched upon, and I myself has a question on this, because the fiscal deficit has increased to 6.8%, if this particular capital expenditure is not implemented in a proper way, or there are some corruption in the system, it might lead to inflation. Although, as Professor Pandey was mentioning, the bond yield has gone up, and that has to do with the fact that there is no clear direction from the government or from the finance minister as how she is going to borrow this, or how she is going to get this money, So therefore, after looking both the good and not so good factor, my overall rating of this, I would actually give 8 out of 10 if I were to rate this particular budget, looking into what has happened in terms of the growth prospect. Now let me come to the development prospect. So as you know that Bharat and India, these are the two stories we keep on hearing. India being the more growth oriented or more upper middle income or higher income category type people who resides in, and Bharat is where rest of the other people are residing in, which is not what we say the have-not groups, So again, the basic difference between growth and development is growth is a univariate concept where we are looking into only the growth of GDP, but development also look into other indicators, for instance, health, education, and more importantly, the distribution of income, whether the difference between rich and poor people has increased over a period of time or not. So what are the good things that we see in this budget is increased allocation for housing and drinking water. In fact, we did a study where we looked into the marginal impact or the marginal value addition of various type of development indicators. And lo and behold, what we found was in case of potable drinking water, the marginal value addition in terms of on the growth is the highest. It is even more than creating factory. It is more than creating banks. It is more than creating roads. So I'll be more than happy to share the study if someone is interested. What are the other good things? So in that way, I think, and I've already mentioned in terms of building house, the multiplier effect, at least for Singapore, it was found to be 2.5 times, which is again a good thing. In terms of agriculture, Professor Reddy has spoken about this in length, but one of the good things that we see in the budget is there is a stress on building rural road. So in terms of connecting rural market to the urban market, this is going to be a big push. Also in terms of irrigation, they are planning to connect the 5 rivers in the Bundelkhand region of Madhya Pradesh. So that is what I read in the paper is that is going to help almost 9 lakh hectares of land that will be brought under direct irrigation facility. Also, we did some studies where we tried to figure out that out of various intervention, which one of the intervention for the agricultural or farmers are going to be more beneficial. For instance, whether it is farm loan waiver, whether it is building more cold storage, whether it is building more food processing units, or building more e-mandis, because each one of the intervention from the perspective of government, as you know, it comes with a cost. And therefore, the idea is to see which one of the intervention on perspective of the government is going to give you the maximum return. And when we actually did all this intervention for the government of Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh, what we figured out, this is also published, is in terms of the marginal value added benefit to the farmers, the most important intervention is building more cold storage. Because in India, almost 18% of our perishable items get wasted because of lack of food storage. The other beneficial thing is building more food processing unit, which is kind of connected with lack of cold storage. Because somehow if I can, let's say, convert milk into ghee, I can store that ghee even if I don't have access to cold storage for a long period of time. And I'm happy to see that the government is taking some initiative in terms of building more cold storage and food processing units. And because I see the hand being raised, okay, I'll try to finish. And also there is an increased allocation in the sense that the government, this again has been talked about, this emergency credit line guarantee scheme has been extended for the small and marginal units, So the outcome is in terms of multiplier effect, poverty reduction, and reduced child mortality. I think this is going to be a positive outcome given the increased allocation. Next slide. And so what can be a spoil sport? The thing has been already talked about is lack of the primary school getting closed, and now automatically people are getting, whether they write the exam or they don't write the exam, they are getting promoted to the next class. So one of the things is the learning outcome that is going to be a spoil sport, because not too many people have got access to internet. Not too many people have got the ability to pay for a smartphone to listen to the online TV channel, or for that matter, online classes, which is being held. And there are lots of studies to suggest that the return on schooling for each year of education, meaning that as you graduate each additional year, you are going to get almost 8 to 9% of benefit, So that is something which I think can be a small sport. So my overall rating on the social expenditure would be 5 out of 10. And now I come to my last slide, which is what can be done. There can be some innovative interventions. I wish I have some time to talk at length, but let me be very specific with two of them. One is plug and play infrastructure, where government is actually developing a parcel of land and asking the private parties to come and set up their industry. This has been the model in Vietnam, Cambodia, and other places where I visited. Basically, the government also earn money. So the government is providing infrastructure in terms of electricity, internet, water connection. So it's a total, it comes in a total package. And they are also giving single window clearance so that you are giving more incentive to the private manufacturers. So government does not have to pay from their pocket. So government is actually acting more as a facilitator. The other thing is for the various social activities. For instance, in West Bengal, we find that lots of dole is being given. Somehow, if we can connect, for instance, right now, Tamil Nadu government has started with the scheme where they are asking the local women to come and educate the primary school children who are actually not getting access to school because the school is closed. So the government is paying for that. So somehow if we can connect the dole program with the existing government welfare scheme, I think that is also going to increase the productivity. And finally, create a venture capital or private fund for MSME, where basically, because one of the complaints that we keep on hearing from the MSME sector is lack of access to finance. So somehow, if we can ask the venture capitalist fund to create a funding from where the MSME can tap their fund, it will be helpful. So I'll stop here in the interest of time. We'll be happy to talk more about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Banik. You made some of the insightful comments, including the responsibility of the states and take some accountability by the states to also cooperate in India's growth process. It's not just the union government problem. It's also the states have to deliver as well. Okay, finally, we come to Mr. Ramakrishnan. He has been an entrepreneur. He has run industries in Indonesia, Germany, elsewhere, manufacturing industries. He is on the several boards of listed companies in manufacturing area in the South. So it would be interesting to hear the industry, business, and the management consultant perspective on the budget. Ram,
good afternoon.
Please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mukul. Thank you, IMPRI. It's been quite revealing and learning. And I thank you for the opportunity to participate. May I have my slides, please? Okay. Can I share screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. I won't go through all my slides. I don't know, it's not opening. So can you pull up my slides?
Yes, I will try to. Sir, keep trying. Go to share screen. Is your file open?
Yes, my file is open. Is it now visible?
No.
I've gone to share screen.
I'm bringing it, sir. No problem.
It's not.
Now, can you see it?
Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I won't go through all my slides. I'll be asking you to switch slides by number. The reason, as I mentioned to you, is I try to develop a logical theme in the whole idea so that it can be coherent when I talk. Could we go to the first slide, please? Next slide, please. Well, the session really talks about transformation versus change. And as we have learned in delivering more than 100 management development programs in Singapore under the very able stewardship of Professor Usher, there has to be a lot of clarity on what transformation and change is. Transformation is an irreversible process and it requires a base of rethinking. Whereas change is essentially a change of state. I can convert water to ice or to steam, but I can't transform water. And the question that I asked myself when this theme came is, how transformatory has this budget been, especially from the point of view of manufacturing? And I'm going to focus on that theme and not meander too much. May I go to slide 4, please? Yeah. See, manufacturing is a very, what can I say? It looks very attractive. It looks very slick, right? And the capital investment that's required, I think the significant standout in the budget, as all the other speakers have pointed out, is the increase in capital commitment by the government. But if I take the ICAR of 4.5 overall for India, which means nearly 40% more capital is going to come into the country. And this is going to, even a multiplier of 1.2 or a capital output ratio of 1.2 is going to deliver a sustained, what can I say, 30-40 lakh crores of additional output in the economy. Exact numbers fail me because I don't have the savings, the gross capital formation savings, but once that is clear, we will be able to estimate the sustained rate of growth that this will trigger. Obviously, we will add year on year. The unfortunate thing is, in manufacturing, the ICAR is nearly 6, which means money going into manufacturing is not as, capital going into manufacturing is not as productive as in other sectors, the services sectors. Now, particularly in MSME, which forms a third of the manufacturing output, I'm going to use that as an example and illustrate the issues and challenges that face us, and is not, to that extent, I would say this budget is not very transformatory. Sure, the transaction costs have come down. Anything to reduce the input costs, anything to reduce throughput, anything to improve productivity is welcome. But if your manufacturing itself is inefficient and non-productive, it's not going to be very beneficial in and of itself. Right, next slide, please. See, manufacturing, again, the data is all over the place. World Bank says it's 13% of our economy. CII says it's 11% of the economy. Be that as it may, it's around quarter of our GDP, 33% of India's manufacturing output. It provides employment, massive employment, and that's the singular feature about manufacturing that we need to work towards. It contributes to export. It's undoubtedly, and there's an opportunity to develop it, right? And the employment generated potential is huge. And increasing the share of MSME, let us take a very hard look at MSME in itself. It's going to be a bit cynical, but I'm coming from the view that I have spent years managing my own family business, which is an MSME, having consulted and worked with numerous MSMEs, as well as having worked with multinationals around the globe. So I'm trying to put together a composite scene for you. Next slide, please. Right. You see how insignificant the MSME contribution in India is. The actual number is not so important, but if you see the green versus the black, it is almost non-existent compared to almost every other country in the world. We need to ask ourselves why. Next slide, please. And it has not been a great employment generator. That again, you can see on a comparative basis, we are very poor, right? It's 8% of revenue versus 21% of jobs. It's hardly any labor productivity involved. Therefore, the issue of transformation is more of the same of manual working and labor is not going to deliver much for India. We need to mechanize, we need to automate. And you're going to ask me then what happens to the labor? Well, history shows socially that as automation and mechanization increase, the spin-off jobs that it throws up is significantly higher. And I'll choose a multiplier in the textile sector. Traditional textiles, the multiplier is about 1:15, which means one direct cotton picking job results in 15 jobs in the economy. But is that what we want? What is the quality of our textiles? Why are our garments, why are countries like Bangladesh and Vietnam, which came 25 years after we were in the garment business, put us out of business? We need to ask ourselves these questions if we are going to transform. Next slide, please. Right? If you look at Japan, 99.7% of the companies is MSME, 70% are employees, and more than 50% of all value added is from MSMEs. You compare that with in India, less than 4% of companies have more than 500 employees delivering significant value addition, gross value added on a relative scale. 4% of our companies. So we need to ask ourselves, why are you breaking our hearts to provide ECLGS for 96% of the companies which are not generating value? Unless and until an enterprise generates economic value, is there hope to survive or will it destroy? I have spoken to a number of MSMEs in and around the area I live in the south, and most of the owners are shying away from taking any further loans because the simple question is, we have to pay interest and repay the loan one day or the other. We'd rather suffer now than later when costs are higher. Next slide, please. So let me come to the summary of the Indian MSMEs. Majority are tiny and mostly undercapitalized. And there is no ambition to scale. If you go into an MSME and ask the owner why he started, he will tell you, I work for the boss. I was going to retire or close to retirement. I had family to feed. So I asked him for some work and he outsourced the work to me. It's a pure cost arbitrage. They're clueless about markets and customers. And my question to this group is, should not policy address and help manufacturing develop markets and customers? Ask yourself only why 4% are able to find such markets and customers. Because unless you have a market and unless you have a customer, you have no business. You can make the finest product in the world, but if nobody is willing to pay for it, there is no business model at all. The factor productivity in MSMEs is very, very weak. I have very strong opinions about it. I don't want to get more into it, but if you look at the way they utilize capital, the way they utilize equipment, the actual labor utility, it's pretty pathetic. The production of factories that are there are more worker, and most of the workers is about family, right? Now, the larger factories are 150 times more productive. So why this fascination with small? What is the policy change that is required to help people grow rapidly? Now, if you take the defense sector in the last 5 years, companies that have been promoted to grow, I know one company which been working for DRDO for the last 25 years and was struggling to buy 5 acres of land 30 years ago, has gone on an IPO of 1,200 crores. Simply because the government let it grow. They didn't let anybody interfere and is delivering massive results. The economic value added overall is poor. And we need to shape policy and put money where economic value added benefits the rest of the citizenry. Manufacturing cannot become a consumer of capital. It should be a contributor of value. Thank you. Next one, please. I'll touch upon this. I won't go much into it, but essentially when you get resources, capital and cash, you put it into plant and machinery and knowledge. Outputs are goods and services and the outcomes are the results. Now, if you use, there's a good input-output relationship, it's economy. It's an resource to input, it's economy. Input to output is efficiency. And if you can deliver relevant outcomes, it's effectiveness. It's the EEE model that we have worked on for many years now. I won't get into the depth of it, but unless we deliver on all three fronts, you can have good utilization, but poor capital productivity. You can have excellent labor productivity, but no customer. All these will impact your value for money. Next slide, please. Right. Effectiveness is sustained value generation. Efficiency is productive use of resources, and economy is practical cost management. Most MSMEs are clueless on all three counts. I can challenge you. I can walk into a manufacturing unit anywhere in India today and ask the CFO his weighted average cost of capital, and he will look at me blankly. If I ask the CEO what are the risk factors, he would be clueless. We need policy to guide these people, and I'll share with you later on in the closing of the presentation how it is done elsewhere. Thank you, Mukul. Next slide, please. These are the various sectors. The current top players are great. I don't agree with any support for textiles. It's been around for 70 years. And just as an example, a garment factory in India today produces 7 to 10 garments per worker per day. In China, they produce 25. And in Bangladesh, it's closer to 27. Yes, there is wonderful opportunity for pharma, for drones, for defense services, and a lot of other related industries, biotech. Natural farming is going to take on big, but it's going to take time. But it will also impact the fertilizer business. And traditional Indian medical systems, everybody makes fun of Ayush, but it's a huge potential. Next slide, please. Right. The biggest challenges is I don't see any money for market development for the manufacturing industry. Unless you develop markets, as I mentioned, you don't have customers. And if you don't have customers, you don't have business. To get customers, you need to do product development to meet customer expectations. If you don't understand the customers, what are the processes you're going to put in? What are you going to skill people on? I just had a note from my alma mater, IIT Kanpur this morning. They're training people in industrial cloth stitching. The first batch of 10 has passed out, and this year's demand is for 200. Have you ever thought how important ironing is in the garment business? If you can't iron a garment, you can't pack it or export it. There are no trained people in ironing. This is as simple as that. So we need to address these issues. And while textile parks are great, and one of the speakers, Mr. Dr. Banik, said we should bring a centralized facilitation. It is excellent, common ETPs and stuff like that. But our skill development has to be really targeted. It's not just a question of, okay, I'll open an ITI, automatically people will come, automatically things will happen. Policy has to go one step at a time to integrate it, and it's going to take 3 to 5 years to get us where we want. The appropriate skills are more important than skills per se, right? And money is the least of the problem for MSMEs. Thank you, Mukul. Now, 2 more slides. Next slide, please. Let me go to slide 13 or 14. Yeah. Let's look at the Japanese model. Next slide, please. This is a very detailed construct, which unfortunately the slide is very small. It can be zoomed in and so on. But essentially, the Japanese do not support an MSME. The first target is to make it viable. Then they support it with product development, then with market development, and then finally with investments. Next slide, please. The whole architecture is here. I've been working on this for the last 30 years because I've always wondered why Japan built a manufacturing industry in 20 to 25 years, whereas India failed in almost a similar period. And it's a surprise to people when I tell them the Toyota came to Hindustan Motors to learn about localization in 1959. And see where Toyota is and see where we are. So there's a solid Japanese model which can guide Indian development. And I'm sure we can go to the Japanese, given our very good relationships with them, and develop a policy construct, which will take maybe 3 to 5 years or even longer to develop a solid base. Then there's the German model. Next slide, please. The last slide. The German model is a lot more detailed, and it is just 700 years old. It's the Hanseatic model going back to the 13th century. Now, the way I have worked in Germany for a year and a half, I worked in a couple of small industries. The way they value the employees, it's all family owned, family managed. The value the employees, they have relationship over generations. They are the technological backbone of the large players. BMW and Mercedes-Benz don't develop the technology. It is the small players who develop the technology and sell it to these big boys, whether it is in tires or turbos or engine or fuel or lubrication. It is a solid construct. It's a bit difficult for India to replicate it because even though we started out the ITIs based on this model, the ethos that is there in Germany is very different. So in conclusion, next slide, please. All that I would say is knowledge, capability, competence. These are valuable resources, but these are not available in plenty in the country, and policy should be directed towards developing them. Manufacturing can transform, because it can add huge value-added work, right? But supporting industries like textiles and auto is a massive consumer of capital and imports. People are probably not aware that 60 to 68% of a car or a motorcycle today is imported. Steel, electronic components, lubricants, aluminum, copper, cabling. So we need to be very hard-headed about what areas of manufacturing to select, how it is going to be encouraged, and take a solid step back, evaluate what is it that has to go into the ground today for manufacturing to be productive 3, 5, 10 years down the line. In that context, I would say the budget, while it's very encouraging, still needs a hard relook and to facilitate what is going to be a very important sector for India. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram,
Welcome, sir.
for your comments and analysis. We have now heard from 4 of the panelists, all the 4 panelists. Our participants have been very patiently listening to the panelists. So before I say anything, may I now invite questions, comments from the participants. Please identify yourself and indicate to whom are you directing your question or comment to. Thank you. Yes. Swati, would you like to coordinate that?
Sir, I am here.
Yeah, okay, Arjun. Yeah.
By Biswajit Mandalji, and that was to Professor Reddy. Why Manrega allocation got reduced? It should have been increased rather, because instead of more emphasis on DBT like PM Kisan, Manrega is better to incentivize the marginal strata as well as enhancing natural resource base. And sir has also tried to reply there. Would you like to stress on that, Professor Reddy?
Yes. Actually, this during the lockdown period, it's a MG Narega. Basically, we all know it is a demand-driven program. So during these last 2 years, because of the pandemic and also because of the reverse migration, many laborers moved from urban areas to villages, and they are mostly engaged in MG Narega works. That's why the MG Narega budget, because it's a demand-driven program, the budget is increased beyond the budgeted allocations. Budget allocation is maybe some 60,000 or something like that, but the actual spending is more about near about 1 lakh crores rupees, 1 lakh crore rupees last year. So actually the thrust of this, an assumption, government assuming that during this year, probably there will be less demand for this MG Narega works, because both rural as well as urban economies will revive, and again the unemployed people will be and who are reverse migrated to rural areas will go back to urban areas and engage in economic activities rather than demanding for MG Narega works. However, given that the minister and economic advisor also mentioned that it's a demand-driven program, we have kept this budget this time. And as I know this, again our chair mentioned that agile strategy, as and when if there is some 3rd wave and 4th wave, severe 4th wave of pandemic, and there is some again a reverse migration to rural areas, if there is a demand increase in the rural areas for this MG Narega works, probably the budget, they will also increase the budget depending on the local conditions and situation. But overall, it is true that this budget gave slightly little emphasis on this social safety net type of programs, just they increased it about 5% or 10%. Entire agriculture as well as rural budget, rural allocation, even health sector also not much increase. The more emphasis they have given for this infrastructure and also digital economy. Thank you.
May
May
I?
also point out that for unskilled labor, rural and urban construction offers a natural route for better paying jobs. Because, with Amarender, you're getting 205 or 206 rupees a day for a limited number of days. And I can tell you in the areas where I live in here and I move around, there is a serious shortage of labor. Even at 800 rupees a day, I can't get a gardener. Right? This is a reality. So maybe there is a trade-off. While undoubtedly the social net is very critical during very difficult times, I think if construction work can kick in, that alone will absorb a very significant portion of the unemployed work. I don't have the numbers of the percentage. Normally, as an engineer, I prefer to deal with hard numbers. The sense that I'm getting is that migration is already started towards construction and labor activity. I can't get a plumber, I can't get an electrician, I can't get a gardener. All these were available 6 months ago on call. Today, it takes them 7 to 8 days to turn up for a simple thing. So I'm going back to my old days of changing taps and washers and stuff like that. And I think the self-help itself is becoming a major.
Okay. May I make a sort of larger analytical point? I have been teaching for many years government officials at medium, high level, and so on. One of my favorite questions to them is, when is a subsidy program successful? So they would say, yeah, when we increase the subsidy, when more people get the subsidy year after year, then it is successful. Then I say, here is my answer. My answer is that the subsidy is successful when the subsidy amount reaches zero, when it's not needed. So you should not be comparing the budget allocation for subsidies in the pandemic year with the recovery year. We are growing very rapidly. We are expected to grow rapidly. And we would ultimately want to reduce this subsidy level. So there is nothing, this automatic thing that every year the subsidies must go up is, to me, not a sound fiscal or economic analysis. But we can leave it for discussion at a later stage. Any other question that?
Yeah, Professor Asher, if I were to continue with what you said, I totally agree. One of the things that we did is, and that we suggested to the government of UP, which fortunately they took up, is once when this COVID happened, there were lots of people, migrant laborer, going back to their own states, and therefore the idea was how to take care of their welfare, because the government also didn't have much money. So one thing that we proposed was, why don't you do the skill mapping for these people who are returning, because all these people who are returning, they are also bringing some type of skill with them. Some of them can be a driver, some of them can be maybe engage in some hospital industry, some of them can be a technician. And therefore, it's quite important, which I'm happy to share, at least the government of UP did, is they did a skill mapping and they tried to actually use the skill set of the people who are returning back. So this is just a quick comment. Yeah.
Right. I have. Yeah. And then Swati.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, sir, shall we take more questions now?
Yes, please, because I think I would like the audience to participate. They have been very patient, and all of us have had some opportunity to contribute. So now it's the audience turn.
Right. So let me ask one question to the panelists that it was not very clear on the roadmap towards more of the revenue side also, that or the credit side, that what is going to be happening to GST reform or petrol prices. So I think I just wanted to ask all the panelists, what do you think about that, and from where we are also financing going ahead? Because earlier there was a lot of talk of municipal bond, this time green bond, but how that is being streamlined, there is not much clarity. So how does panelists think that this budget has any signals towards that? And also the nature of capital expenditure, I'm sure you all have much touched upon, if you can stress on it. Swati, you want to bring your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you all the panelists for the insights that you have given. So my first question is in line with what Radhika ma'am pointed out, basically the disinvestment targets. So we know that they haven't been met for the like 2021 to 22 financial year, and even the like estimates have been reduced for the coming financial year. So right now we know we need more expenditure in like capital expenditure, as we pointed out. So what is the implication of that on the fiscal front, and given that we need more revenues at this point of time?
Okay.
Like I have two more questions. So like as pointed out by Ramakrishnan sir, so manufacturing is a sector with core challenges and is like a core sector. So how will we able to solve the crippling issues and bottlenecks if the focus hasn't been on skilling and training in this particular sector, as the need arises with new technologies coming in? And in line with the same, like social expenditure hasn't been very significant in India, if we talk about, and this has been one of the reasons that India has been ranked among the lowest in terms of social indicators. So how do we address these pertinent issues that we know they have long-term impacts on the economy, and what should be the way forward according to you?
You want me to take that question, Mukul?
Sure.
See, manufacturing, we have to understand that, I'd go back to what Peter Drucker said. A business exists for only two reasons: to find customers who are able and willing to pay for the product that you produce. Which means manufacturing has to understand what customers within India and overseas are willing and able to pay, right? Now, simply by producing something and presenting to a customer and saying, look, here is what I make, please buy, is not relevant. We'll have to understand it, and I'll give you a very crude, typical example, which I use very frequently. If I go back and ask anyone here, how many dhotis or kurtas did your grandfather have? You will say 3, 4, right? You ask yourself what your father had, maybe 10. I won't ask what your daughter has, but if you look at your son, he will have 45, 50 t-shirts and six different tennis shoes, and still want the 7th and the 8th and 9th and 10th different watches. This value migration is something that manufacturing businesses need to understand. Why is the automotive industry now in a rapid phase of change? It's because people my age or Mukul's age were content with the Maruti 800 or a Honda Civic. Younger generation wants an electric vehicle. Why are they buying flats? Why are they no longer staying at their parents' homes? These are all shifts in value that we have to map. And when you go into the export market, it's not that simple. If you take a garment, I work very closely with the garment industries. Every 3 months, the fashions change. So the Indian manufacturing infrastructure, roads, electricity, data communication, does not permit a design to be completed in 6 to 8 weeks. How can they deliver in 4 weeks? So the composite effect of all the infrastructure that we produce must be towards increasing throughput. That's a concept that Indian transport industry, manufacturing industry, and services do not understand. What do I mean by throughput? When I take electricity and I energize it at one point, it's available at the other end at the speed of light. That's throughput. Any halt in between is a waste of resources. In manufacturing, our time of idle, the time in which a product is idle on the shop floor, is about 85 to 90%. And only 10% is being actually worked on. So we need to understand that the productive use of resources starts by understanding what the customer wants, designing your products to suit the customer, developing the capability to design it, developing the competency to process it and deliver it at a high quality. For example, there is a concept called cost of quality, which means what is the total system cost due to lost quality. Can you guess what it is in India and what is it in Toyota? To shorten the tension, in India, the cost of quality is 30%, which means we are needlessly wasting 30% of our manufacturing cost due to poor quality. What is poor quality? Materials don't arrive. There is a transport strike. The insurance claim is delayed. The product comes in damaged. Labor turns up. Ostensibly, they go for Deepavali and come 2 weeks later. All these are systemic qualities. In Toyota, it is 5%. That's what makes a Toyota different. In other companies, it's around 10-12%. But the cost of quality is so high that it's a barrier for us to progress. How are we to reduce it? Yes, the infrastructure investment is fantastic. Data being available is fantastic. But tell me, why does the textile industry still have to import to 30-35% of its fabric from China? Is India not capable of making the fabric? Right? Why? They will immediately tell you incentive. I'm not joking. In Tirupur here, I have a home in Coimbatore. In Tirupur, I have a lot of friends. They wanted a subsidy from the government to develop the PE kit. Another client of mine was making the laminations. He developed the PE kit in 30 days. 7 others developed it in the same period. And you know what? The government paid them last year in 3 days' time and gave them the money that was due. So the traditional industry was swamped because they're looking for subsidies, they're looking for support, they want this, they want that. That model has to change. The auto industry immediately will tell you, please reduce GST, we will sell 25% of the vehicles more. I will ask all you guys, what is the cost of finance in a well-run business? People say reduce interest, things will boom. Let me tell you, I have analyzed it. The top 50 companies in India, the cost of finance as a percentage of their revenue is less than 0.02%. So reducing interest rate by 1%, is it going to really improve your business? Is making money freely available going to reduce your business?
Okay. Professor Pandey.
Is it going to improve working capital management? Yeah. No, I'll just cover one aspect, the social aspect to it. Okay.
Can I respond to the disinvestment question?
Yeah, please. Ram, you can come back again at a later
no
stage.
I understand. I get carried away.
That's fine. That's
Harry
fine. That's fine. No problem. It's because it's so exciting to listen to you that I feel guilty stopping. But Professor Pandey can respond now.
Yeah, so on the disinvestment receipts, it has been reduced from 1.75 lakh crore to almost 68,000 crore. And for this financial year, it's reduced to 78,000 and next 68,000 crore. So on the fiscal side, what they have done is that they have made their entire estimates very conservative. On the tax side also, they have made it conservative. On the expenditure side also, they have only estimated a less than 5% increase in expenditure. So when they are only trying to spend less than 5% and keeping a fiscal deficit of 6.4%, it's quite likely that they will be on the fiscal management side, they will be able to achieve the fiscal deficit for the next FY also. The problem is that if we look at from the revenue side,
we lost ma'am's connection. Okay. Meanwhile, we have Biswajit Mandalji. So please, briefly, if you can put your question.
Yes. Could you identify yourself, please?
Thank you, sir. This is Dr. Biswajit Mandal. I'm working as a principal scientist at ICAR National Rice Research Institute, Cuttack, Odisha. So it's my privilege that I've got an opportunity to interact with you. My one concern was about MNRGA that has been discussed in length. And another question that means concern with regard to that inequality, inequality in income or whatever may be, means access to basic resources, health, medical facilities, and your social safety program, whatever may be. And Professor Banik was mentioning about that, duality kind of thing, that is Bharat and India. So I mean to say there should be some concrete step to reduce that distance between Bharat and India. But in this budget, I think there is no enough efforts was made. So I wanted Dr. Banik to elaborate it further.
Yes, Professor Banik.
Yeah, so basically, if I were to state some data, NCAER, they did some consumption expenditure survey, and which is taken as a proxy for income, and what they found is only 1%. Means if I'm looking into the per capita income, it's around $2,200, which is around 1,50,000 rupees per capita per annum, and almost 80%, and this is quite striking, 80% of the Indian population are actually earning less than that. So that was quite striking to me, although this is the latest figure which I can get. So of course, what Professor Mandal is saying right now makes sense, in the sense that you have a widening disparity. And to me, if I were to look into one particular intervention which will hopefully reduce this, it has to be investment on education. Somehow you have to build that scale, because that is the only thing. I myself belong to a middle income family. I was raised as a lower middle income family. The only difference I can see myself talking to some of you right now has to do with the fact that I was fortunate to continue my education. So one of the intervention, and therefore I keep on stressing that this closing down of primary school is doing long-term damage in terms of creating human talent or human skill. Because as I said, if I look into the return on primary school and the return on the secondary school, these are the highest. So some of the studies are suggesting it's as high as 8%, which is basically more than the fixed deposit rate of interest that you get. So to my short answer would be somehow ensure that we have taken steps for our higher secondary school, but we need more IIMs, more IITs. That also government is doing. But at the same time, you should also ensure that in terms of primary education, you are delivering quality education. Without that, I think we are going to miss the bus. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may suggest, Professor Mondo, last year's economic survey, they had an excellent graph which said that higher economic growth reduces poverty, and growth and poverty are highly inversely correlated. But growth has very low correlation with inequality, because inequalities arise from variety of sources. For example, globally, one of the factors that is affecting inequality is the easy money policies of the central banks, where the interest rates are very low. If your interest rates are very low, the savers on fixed deposits, others are being penalized. Where would they put their money in? They would put their money in the stock markets, in Bitcoins, in other housing, real estate, other assets. Those assets to begin with are unequally distributed, and therefore it is raising inequality. So the central bank monetary policies are a big contributing factor. There are others, and I don't agree with the vocabulary of Bharat versus India. It's a false dichotomy. Every Indian is Indian, and we need to develop every part of the economy without dividing and subdividing the country. One of the excellent examples that we are seeing in UP is one district, one product scheme. And that is not saying you are in Lucknow, so you are India, you are in this place, in Purvanchal, so you are Bharat, and so on. They're saying you are UP, and we are going to develop all. So one of the things needed is to change our mindset to think about India and think positively rather than thinking about dividing the people and the country. Sorry, I feel very strongly about it because mindsets are very important, whether the glass is half full or half empty. Better to look that it is half full, how to make it 3/4 empty, rather than always complaining that it is half empty. Sorry, Ram, you have a comment.
Just a very curious statistic which has fascinated me for years. What percentage of the Indian population reads English newspapers? Let us assume that the English speakers are the Indians and the vernacular speakers are the Bharat. I know Mukul, I understand Mukul's point of view. I share that. I'm not a Tamilian. I'm an Indian. I'm a Bharatvasi. I don't like to speak Hindi, but I will speak Hindi because integrated English, right? I read, I speak Hindi. And you know what's the viewership thing? It's just seamless as far as I'm concerned. Am I on? Are you able to hear?
Yes, we are losing your connection.
I think, yeah, sound is breaking.
Yeah, I got it back. Yeah, now let me also come back and come on one comment that you observed. Most manufacturing industries do not support socially their workers because they don't have money to pay even their salaries, let alone their PF and ESI. This is a fact of life. So unless we make these units productive, you can't expect the government to go on supporting people. Yes, the Contract Labor Act is a great act. I think it is working very well. But what about the people who do not have a contract and do not get ESI, PF, or even their basic wages on time? So my own argument, if there's a transformation, is let's get the guys who have to pay for the social security. And after all, education is funded by the government. I keep telling people when I was in IIT, the government it's costing the government 7.5 to 10 lakh of rupees in those years to put us through 1 year of IIT. So if they spend 45, 50 lakhs on an undergraduate program, you have to put it back. But our industries, 90% of our industries are not capable of doing it. So if you expect the government to do it and provide development and provide infrastructure and provide surpluses, it's not going to happen in our lifetimes. At least my leg, one is across there. So I'm not sure how long it will take to drive it over, but it's not going to happen.
All right, next question. Anybody from the audience?
Sir, can I put a question?
Of course.
Sir, it is to Professor Pandey. She was telling about a big push as Capex in this budget. So my concern is whether it is expecting to trickle down its beneficial effect to all the sections, means along with the creation of infrastructure and other facilities, its benefits can go to up to lower level, means that equal pace, or I mean to say whether lower level of people also can get the facilities.
Yeah,
Pandey?
Yes. So, see, if you look at the Capex push, some of the schemes that that have got enhanced allocation are belonging to the construction sector. And if you look at the construction sector, most of the people who are employed in the construction sector are the informal labor. If you look at the quarterly employment survey, which is now released by the Ministry of Labor, for the last two editions, what we've seen in that construction sector does not have regular employees. It mostly has casual laborers. So if there is a policy push given to the construction sector through a number of schemes, like Awas Yojana, through road, through highways, it is to provide employment to the vast section of the informal labor force. And during the pandemic, one of the main challenges was that the jobs losses were very acute in the construction sector because we saw there was a reverse migration from urban to rural areas during the lockdown in March 2020. So as a result, the government had to enhance allocation to Manrega to cover some of the reverse migration of labor that had moved back from urban to rural areas. So in order to address those inequalities and to address that problem of trickle down to the informal workforce, I think the allocation towards construction sector within the infra. So on the one side, it is going to create assets, but on the other side, it is helping in, it will help in creating jobs, and that we've seen in some of the empirical the studies that have been conducted on the effectiveness of these schemes. So job creation is definitely the agenda for the informal workforce, and that is what we see in the construction sector. So we do see trickle-down effect. The only hiccup is, again, the implementation challenges, how quickly those schemes come into effect. But given that it's a public sector Capex push, we should see all the challenges quickly taken care of so that the production activity, construction activity can kickstart and can start providing employment. Again, as I pointed out in my presentation, that these sectors have forward and backward linkages. So it will also affect the other industries that are supplying inputs and raw materials to the sectors, and will help in generation of employment and will lead to increase in consumption. So one approach could have been to provide some cash handouts in the hands of people, but that would not have led to that would have only given a one-time short-term increase in income. To ensure that there is a medium-term sustainable rise in demand and income, I think this is a better approach to augment the incomes of people. Thank you.
Okay, Professor Mandal, the last year's survey, economic survey, also had an excellent graph that said that the basic necessities as they defined it are being more evenly spread through Ujjwala scheme, electrifying villages, and others. And so that in that sense, the inequalities in availability of basic amenities needed for empowerment that Professor Pandey just talked about, those inequalities are declining in India quite significantly. So you should be thinking of inequalities in a very multi-dimensional way as well. Okay, next question.
Professor Mukul, I just have a point of view here. See, when you're looking at
a quick one, please.
Transformation. Pardon? When we are looking at transformation, why are we still looking at trickle down? Why don't we look at a dynamic flow of incomes and wealth upstream to downstream? Isn't that transformative? What we are doing with the command and control type of economy and trickling down is a very traditional mindset. We ought to be more dynamic about it. And whether this budget is more dynamic, what the impact of this capital investment into the ground is going to be, I believe 2022 and 2023, I'm telling my customers, get ready for a sort of growth that you're not going to see. Just this morning, I was with a customer, Black & Decker, the tool maker, wants to transfer 1 billion screws from China to India. 1 billion. This guy does not says, I don't have the capacity. What do I want to do? That's the order of magnitude. That will be a dynamic flow and not a trickle down. We should not look at trickle down. We should look at something that's a forced flow, a dynamic flow that goes downstream very fast.
Thank you, Ram. Any other question? How many minutes we have left for this event?
So we can go for a way forward round, a small way forward round from everyone.
All right. Shall I make my comments on the budget last or now?
Sir, as you deem fit.
Okay. Why don't we give everybody 2 minutes to say the way forward? So that will be about 8 to 10 minutes. And I will have 3 to 4 minutes for my budget comments to end. So can we take the same order that we started with, and please be brief.
Yeah, so just on the conclusion side, what I think is that, one of the major challenge going forward is how the debt of the central government and of the general government would be addressed. So towards that, some of the steps that now need to be taken is that whatever impediments are there towards improving the bond markets and to ensure that Indian bonds are included in the global bond indices, so that we have more investors, that would reduce the cost of borrowings for the government. That should be now the next step, given that we have laid down the roadmap for fiscal consolidation and our fiscal trajectory for the next 4-5 years. So now the next step should be to ensure that there is a more reduced cost of borrowing by diversifying the investor base and by diversifying the portfolio of bonds. Another important, significant, noteworthy development that has happened is that government has talked about issuance of green bonds in this year's budget. So it needs to be seen that out of the net borrowing of around 11.6 lakh crore, what is going to be the proportion of green bonds, because it's going to be linked to the climate finance activities. So higher proportion of green bonds would again attract more new kinds of investors, like the ESG investors, the pension funds of other countries that are mostly interested in these kind of financing activities. And the last point that I would talk about is there were some efforts made towards privatization and disinvestments in the last year's budget. And there are concerns that whether the government still wants to go ahead with those initiatives or not. So I think there needs to be some clarity on whether government wants to pursue the bank privatization that they introduced in the last year's budget or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very succinct and very critical points. Okay. Who is, I think, Professor Reddy?
I am Amarender Reddy. Actually, because this debate all about this transformation, still we are having a huge budget allocation for food subsidy, public distribution system and all, about 2 to 3 lakh crores together, all these things. And also fertilizer subsidy about 1 lakh crore. However, this, these are all, market distorting subsidies anyway. One is from input side, other one is output side. Probably even Government of India came out with that PM Kisan, the direct money transfer to the farmers. Across the world, even all the developed countries, even some developing countries are moving from a guaranteed minimum support price, guaranteed price towards direct money transfer, so that these market interventions will be pro market friendly, and it will not distort the markets. So we also probably slowly we had to shift from this MSP oriented policies to PM Kisan, direct money transfer to the farmers. And one way, because we cannot do all of a sudden, because over the years MSP for paddy and wheat only perpetuated some political interest and vested interest. We had to do step-by-step process. That step-by-step process should start through because PM Kisan, the allocation under PM Kisan is not increased much this budget. Probably one way to link PM Kisan allocations or budget allocations, markets of money, direct money transfer to the farmers, linked to the inflation or input prices, linked to input prices, so that slowly you can remove that subsidies given to the fertilizers, so that in future if you reduce the fertilizer subsidy, automatically PM Kisan assistance will be increased. Farmers will not agitate to this type of reforms. So one way you increase the PM Kisan assistance, the other way you can reduce the farmers fertilizer subsidy, etc., so that there will not be any agitation from the farmers as well as the consumers in the long run. I think that is the one way. And also basic infrastructure, as we have to push basic infrastructure, especially the inner rural India. That is very important. Now we are covering only national highways, etc. But if you go beyond just 20 kilometers, I know beyond that national highways, there is a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Reddy, for very insightful comments. Professor Banik.
Yeah, so basically, I think I will try to stress and try to see that and hope that the middle income categories, their purchasing power, somehow the government do something to increase their purchasing power, in the sense that the government has not cut down the direct tax. So that is one of the way the critics, they are being saying that you in the event of rising price, and in particular, the government cannot do much about cutting the petrol or diesel price, because if you see the landed price, it is around 52 rupees per liter, and the highest tax bracket under GST is 28%. Now, if the government were to bring it to the GST bracket, which means right now the government, if you go to the petrol pump, they are charging like 104 or 105 rupees per liter of petrol, depending upon which states I'm talking about. So basically, government is collecting almost 100% as tax. Now, if we are asking the government to shift to bring petrol and diesel under the ambit of GST, the highest tax bracket for which is 28%, that is not possible, because the government will lose huge amount of money. Already the government has lost a lot of money in reducing the corporate tax from 30 to 22%. And after that, you have COVID. So I think somehow the government should, going forward, keep a tab on inflation, because the inflation is coming more from the supply side, So as how can government do it? Maybe reduce some of the state VAT, again, it falls under the ambit of the state government. So I think that's from my part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My understanding, Professor Banik, is that the petrol taxes are levied both by the union government and by the states.
Right.
So it is the two. It is not the government in the.
No, so that's why I say that it also
that makes it difficult.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying that it's also dependent upon the state government, because out of that 52 odd rupees, in addition to which the landed price, part of it is coming under the state VAT, part of it is coming under the central VAT, So, and they cannot bring both the state and the central, bring it down from 100% to 28%. So that was my point.
Thank you very much. Ram, quick final points.
If you have to look at transformation, I think the services sector and the manufacturing sector both need a relook, because even our services sector efficiency leaves a somewhat to be desired. And my own view is, first and foremost, we need a clear-cut policy, a 4-step policy. First, to establish the feasibility of these industries. Not all of them may be worthwhile surviving for the next 20 years. Next, we require, once it's viable, it's feasible, it must be viable. Then it must be credible. And it must be a reliable contributor of economic value, which taxes are paid. The government taxes are paid, people are well rated, and people are, when you have people wages, you need a lot of, so India move from viable to reliable. That's my 2 bits, Mukul.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ram.
Welcome.
Dr. Arjun, may I make my final comments on the budget and then we can move forward?
Yes, please.
Okay. Lot has been said. I agree with many of the points. Emphasis may differ. I've already indicated my views on subsidy, that progress of subsidy should be towards zero. Then it is successful because it is no longer needed. You moved away from the need for it. Professor Reddy had indicated the role of the states. States have spent more percentage of the combined union and state expenditure and get more revenue through devolution, everything of the combined. So they have the higher, but we don't have like this. Even UP, Maharashtra, Karnataka, major states, we don't have any budget analysis. We don't have research institutes that look at the budget. And I encourage Dr. Arjun for you to have this kind of webinar on maybe a couple of states together when they present their budget. Now, in terms of the capital expenditure, one of the things that is important is how much do they crowd in private expenditure. So you could have capital expenditure that actually crowd out private expenditure, private capital expenditure, or it can crowd in. So that is the quality and that is the research that is needed to see. My view is that this budget's capital expenditure is likely to crowd in, but that is a deductive reasoning, not an empirical data-driven finding. And I would encourage people to do that. We talked about, one of the things I was surprised about by the panel, that none of the panelists talked about one of the very important announcement in the budget, that India will issue its own digital currency. And it will tax cryptos and Bitcoins, others. So taxing is one part at 30% with no loss offset, provide some revenue. But the fact that RBI will be issuing India's official digital currency has a lot of significance that we need to consider. Finally, the external sector. The budget speech per se did not mention much about external sector, but a lot of implicit things and the complementary policies throughout the year are going to lead to significant rise in the export. Capital expenditure and exports will be an engine of growth, 2 engines of growth that will be significant. Give you one example, 2 examples. One is that in 2020, India was the 9th largest agricultural exporter in the world. And we are likely to move up as our coastal zones development, blue economy, fisheries, others materialize, will be a major agricultural exporter. So now if we are exporting we are providing food security through agricultural export, health security through vaccine exports and so on, and other medicines. And next is the defense sector. Today, we are 23rd largest defense exporter in the world. We should be in the top 10. And we have got now Bangalore, Gujarat, UP as 3, and Chennai maybe as the 4th. 4 hubs of defense exports that are coming up that we need, where we need creative diplomacy. And what Ram was talking about markets, this is what the diplomacy can provide. So our agreements with UAE and so on, with Egypt, now with UK, we have already concluded some rounds. All of these will augur well for that as well. Final point. Radhika mentioned, sorry, Dr. Pandey mentioned this, apologies. The last year's budget was the first budget that where the fiscal numbers, macroeconomic numbers, and the scope of the budget was credible. IMF has done a study that if your budget figures are regarded as credible, your borrowing cost could go down by as much as 40 basis points. And the FM has continued this tradition. One example, all of the losses of Air India are accounted for in this year's budget. So this deficit includes the losses the government has taken on Air India privatization. The divestment receipts, as was pointed out, are conservative. What I'm not so sure about is how would LIC divestment, which is on cards, which will happen, which is likely to happen in March from my sources. LIC will be the second largest market cap company after Reliance on the stock market. But of course, divestment is only 8 to 10% as of now. Slowly, it will increase. So we will get more from divestment as we move forward, and the balance between the public and the private sector, between the state and the market, between the entrepreneurs and polite word is others, that has shifted in a favorable way in all 3 cases. So I would give very high marks to the budget as to what it has proposed. And I agree that this has to be sustained, implemented, and empirical observations, monitoring and evaluation has to be constantly made. Thank you very much. Arjun?
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for such an enriching deliberation. So to officially give the vote of thanks, now invite Mahima.
Thank you, sir. As we come to the end of this very enriching and insightful deliberation on New India's Economic Transformation and Union Budget 2022-23, I, Mahima Kapoor, researcher at IMPRI, would like to formally propose a vote of thanks. On behalf of the IMPRI Center for the Study of Finance and Economics, I thank our distinguished panel for taking out the time to be with us today. We are grateful for Professor Mukul Ashar for chairing the discussion and driving it with his valuable inputs and interventions. Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
Thank you, sir. We thank our panelists, Dr. A. Amarender Reddy, Professor Nilanjan Banik, Dr. Radhika Pandey, and V. Ramakrishnan for sharing their pertinent analysis and perspectives on Budget 2020. And of course, we are grateful to all our participants who joined us here on Zoom or on Facebook Live, or would be watching us later on YouTube or listening to us on our podcast. We hope that you continue to tune into future episodes of the State of the Economy, #EconDialogue, as well as other #Web Policy Talks. We also invite you to join us for more of our upcoming discussions on the Union Budget 2022 in the coming days. Thank you again, and I wish you all a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.